Hi guys, welcome back aboard good old Athena. We arrived here at the Halford River last week. We've been waiting here for a perfect weather window to go direct to Spain. We've got that weather window tomorrow, but a minibus-sized living and breathing wrench has been thrown into our otherwise perfect plan. My name is Mess, this is my wife Ava. I've spent the last 5 years on a somewhat extensive refit of our 1987 Warrior 38 named Athena. That was a DIY fun-packed adventure complete with a very extensive osmosis treatment, building a new rudder using vacuum infusion, rebuilding the entire deck, gutting and subsequently rebuilding most of the interior, painting the topsides, and a ton of other projects. The summer of 2021 we started cruising full time. Now we're finally ready to begin our adventure. The very first thing I did last week when we arrived here in Halford River and dropped the anchor was to start setting up our Iridium Go, both so that we could have weather on our 3 to 4 day passage down to Spain, but also, and more so that we could stay up to date on the orca situation. A quick little side note to avoid any confusion. If you watched last week's video, we installed some spiffy blinds and sky screens from Dometic. Now the footage you're about to see was recorded right before I did that, because like I mentioned, the very first thing I did when we got to the Halford River was to configure our Iridium Go so we were ready to go in case we got a good weather window. So yeah, we've got a little bit of a continuity issue. In the footage you're about to see, the paper towel curtains are still in place. In real life, the blinds are still in place. I'm assuming those of you guys who are not from this little corner of the world haven't heard about this situation yet. So just to sum it up real quick. A few years back, an orca, or killer whale, call them whatever you will, got the clever idea of playing with the rudder on a sailboat. And well, that was bad news because of course the rudders on boats like these are not really designed to withstand getting rammed by an orca. So yeah, it broke the rudder. But what's even worse is that since then, that behavior seems to have spread to its family and friends. This behavior is localized to this little part of the world. It's mainly the coast of Portugal, a little bit of Spain, a little bit of France, but it's really not good news. I think the week before last there were 6 of what's called interactions down by the northwest corner of Spain, and out of those 6 I think 1 boat sank, and I think also that is the first sinking I'm aware of as a result of an interaction with an orca. But yeah, still really not good news. The family that was aboard that boat did get rescued, so there were no fatalities, but often after interactions you will see boats needing to get towed to shore. They may need to build an entirely new rudder, or there's some kind of other damage to the steering. So yeah, really bad news. There are a couple of organizations that are tracking this behavior, and this is one of them. I'll include a link down in the description. As you can see, these traffic lights here on the northwest corner of Spain indicate not great news, and this was actually the area we would like to go to. So yeah. Actually, a friend of mine named Mark, they left Denmark the year before Ava and I went. Their boat was interacted with down by Portugal, and they ended up having to build an entirely new rudder. I would much prefer not to have to do that. Now, there are all kinds of more or less wacky tactics for what to do if you get interacted with, but I think the best option is to just try and steer clear of the orcas, and that's where this thing comes in. While the Iridium Go is slower than a snail, and we would never be able to load any kind of website on this thing, it will allow us to email or text somebody ashore that can then check, for instance, the website I just showed you. There's also a Facebook group, and I think the Cruising Association in the UK here, they're also doing some kind of monitoring of the situation. So if we can stay in contact with somebody on shore, well then we can do our very best to avoid whatever area is the hotspot when we get close to it. Much like with a cell phone, you need a subscription for this thing to work. We've gone with a subscription from PredictWind. I've gotten a bunch of SIM cards here because we may want to cancel our service at some point and then resume it again. And to be able to do that, we need a fresh SIM card. So hence the stack. I've popped the new SIM card in the Iridium Go and put everything back together again. Now we have to go to PredictWind's website to activate our SIM card. All I have to do is to input 2 super secret numbers that I don't want to share with you guys, one from the SIM card and one from the Iridium Go. After having provided the 2 super secret numbers, we now get to choose our plan. And we will go with the unlimited one for $140 per month. For $140 a month, we get 150 voice minutes and unlimited data minutes. Unlimited data may sound amazing, but it is very slow transfer speeds. So all you can use this device for really are weather forecasts, a very, very light bit of emailing and some texting, and that's it. Now, while you're offshore, that is great. While you're near shore, I don't really think there's any reason to pay for this service. Your cell phone is gonna outperform this any day of the week. I've added a credit card to pay for our subscription, and now it is saying activation complete, so our SIM card should work. In a previous video, I installed the external antenna for the Iridium Go, so let's go ahead and get this guy connected back up. There are 3 different apps we'll use in combination with the Iridium Go. There is PredictWind's offshore app for weather forecast, weather routing, stuff like that. Then there is Iridium Go, ! That is used for text messages. And I think that's about it. You used to be able to post to Twitter through that, but you can't do that anymore. And then there is Iridium Mail for, well, email. PredictWind also have their offshore application available on Mac and on Windows. With the offshore app, you can download grip files and then you can, well, tell what the weather is perhaps maybe gonna do. The Iridium Mail application is kind of like getting blasted back into the 90s. You've got a send and receive button down here, and if you want to check your mail, you gotta go in there and then you gotta hit the little get mail button. Then the app dazzles you with all its technical jargon like dialing, negotiating, authenticating, connected, and holy god dang, this is slow. But long behold, we now have one unread email in our inbox. Wow, it's from me, and well, it was just a test email. Having this lifeline to shore when, for instance, we're crossing the Atlantic, I'm sure is going to be amazing. But yeah, as you can see, it is a little bit dated. On a related note, in a few weeks, I hope to install Starlink on the boat. Not the marine version, sadly, because we're not made of money, but the RV version. Now, there are a couple of little pitfalls with that, some things in their terms of service that make it a little bit less attractive for cruisers, especially if you're going to be crossing the Atlantic, but we'll get back to that in an upcoming video. Bam! And we're back in the future or real time or whatever you want to call it. Like I said, we have the perfect weather window to go direct to Spain tomorrow, but we're not gonna. We're currently in the UK out here in the very tippy end of the UK. We want to go to Spain. Now, for the last 4 weeks, the vast majority of orca interactions has happened in this area here around A Coruña. Late last week, it sounded like they were starting to move down to the Rias down here. But then this morning, I woke up to news about interactions in this area out here, directly south and west of Brest. So this stretch here, which is directly on our route to Spain. Our plan to avoid the orca situation when they were just here around A Coruña was simply just to aim further east for Gijón. That would put us well clear of the interactions I've heard of, and we could simply just day hop along the coast whenever the orcas start moving away from this area. But now they're up here, blocking our path to Spain. The good news is we still have a great weather window to head south tomorrow, but we're only going to go as far as Brest in France. Yes, we could go all the way to Spain and just completely ignore the orca situation, but I don't really fancy getting stuck out in the middle of the Bay of Biscay without a rudder or with damaged steering or with some kind of crack in the hull. Yes, we do have everything on the boat. We need to rig emergency steering with a drogue, but even for that, it would take us a long time to limp back to shore because the boat is going to be weeble wobbling. So yeah, I think for us, we could go to Spain, but there's risk associated with that, and there's just no real reward. We're better off going to Brest, reassessing the situation, and then if the orcas are gone, then we can do a jump to Spain, or we can hop down the coast of France a little bit before we then jump to Spain. If an orca decides to play with us, we've got various things that we can do to try and deter it, but that is going to be a story for an upcoming video. In terms of tomorrow, I feel good about us just going to Brest. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's going to say we're being overly cautious, But like I said, for us it's a matter of risk and reward, and well, if we go, we could potentially risk the boat. The worst thing that can happen if we go to Brest first is that we get to see a little bit more of France, which is a lovely place. So yeah, I just don't think the risk is worth it to go direct to Spain. If we take a quick look at the weather routing for tomorrow, we can see that all the forecast models basically agree there's not going to be a huge variation in any of them. I've switched to PredictWind's departure planning tool here, and if we go into the tables, we can see that if we leave at 8 o'clock, our max wind speed should be 16 knots, minimum 2.6, and max gust should be 20.6. So looking at this and comparing that to the weather data, I know that the wind is going to drop down early in the morning, so there's going to be a little bit of motoring involved, but that's fine. If we scroll down a little bit, then down here there are 3, and I think these are relatively new, 3 tables. These tell us stuff about the sea state, and looking at this, it looks like it should be a fairly comfortable ride tomorrow. The next morning at 8 o'clock we started racing the anchor. The one thing I don't really like about our Mantis chain claw snubber thingy is the shake and shimmy that's required to get it off of the chain, but my technique is improving. It seems like we hit a patch of sand because the anchor came up completely clean. I secured the anchor with the neat little hook that came with our swivel. One thing that would be nice to have is a washdown pump for getting dirt and tiny stowaways off of the deck. That is on the to-do list. So far, so good. Anchor's up, we're underway, and we have about 120 miles to go. I've put our route into the chart plotter, and as you can see, we are heading straight towards Brest. The 2 red markers I've placed here are the beginning and the end of a traffic separation scheme. So yeah, we're well clear of that, so that shouldn't become an issue. There are going to be 2 tricky things on this passage. There's going to be the traffic going in and out of the English Channel. We should get there before it gets dark, fingers crossed. And then when we get right close to France, there's somewhere where we need to be very careful about current. Off of the tip of France here are some small islands, these islands here. Between those and the mainland, apparently there is quite the current flowing here, so we want to time that correct. The way things are looking right now, we should get there in the early hours of the morning, and that should give us an ever so gentle push through that narrow bit. How you doing, Ava?
Good. I'm excited to finally be going. I feel like since we left Plymouth, we've been like, we're going, we're not going, we're going, okay, we're going. But then there was orcas and we've been having to deal with that. So it feels good to get underway, but it will feel even better when we're in France. However, I don't want to jinx it because we have thought we were going to leave the UK for good twice, but we've been back.
Twice?
Yeah, the first time when we left for France, we didn't think we were going to be back. And then when we left for Ireland, we didn't think we would be back.
No, that's true. That's true.
So, we'll see.
We've had a really good time here on the Halford River, mainly because we had a bunch of friends here at the same time as we were here. So we've been dinghy racing with Kadoa and Tilly, Zach and Becca. And also Mark and Marcella came down to see us, and I got a chance to e-foil, as you may have seen in last week's video. We'll have about an hour or so of motoring to do before the wind should start filling in, but that's okay. That gives us a chance to run the water maker. On a quick side note, my efforts to scrub the hull and the prop in last week's video seems to have paid off. We are doing just around 6 knots on the engine. That is a lot faster than our way from Plymouth to Halford.
We're zooming, baby! Ow, ow!
One of the important things that we're doing this season is getting Ava up to speed on all of the systems on the boat. So why don't we have Ava start the water maker?
All right, people, this is a very delicate system. So first things first, you're gonna wanna move the fancy hand towel out of the way. Now I know some people like to just toss it into the sink. We don't wanna do that. You wanna hang it over the other fancy hand towel so it doesn't get wet. Next, don't tell me, I'm gonna say it and then I'll do it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so, I'm gonna wanna turn it on, and then I'm gonna wanna increase the pressure.
Yes.
And then once it's ready, divert it to the tank.
Correct.
Okay.
and then you just watch the pressure gauge.
Right, I want it
Nope,
to be...
the bottom one. So
Oh.
you see that it just comes up around 1 bar, something like that.
Okay. Wait, this?
Yep.
What do you mean? What do you mean 1 bar? Oh, right there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then you can increase pressure.
Okay. Initiate increase pressure. All right.
Okay, and you're in the middle of the green?
Now I am.
Good.
Okay. You're really gonna want, you know, a nice clean taste. It's hard to describe. Only some of the world's most talented water tasters like myself really know what it tastes like. Not yet. Go.
As we were going to spend most of the day going downwind, I decided to rig our preventer to hopefully prevent any accidental decapitations in the cockpit or rig damage in the event of an accidental jibe. I slowly let out the main sheet to let out the boom so we could better catch the wind coming from behind. While I was letting out the main sheet, Ava took up the slack on the preventer. Finally, I let out a bit of our head sail, and just like that, we were flying along without using any dinosaur squeezings. It took a little bit longer than expected, but the winds have finally filled in, and we are doing about 5.5 knots, no engine, so that's really nice. Now, right now, it would be more beneficial for us to go wing on wing, but the winds are supposed to shift more towards the west any second now, and I don't want to bother putting up the pole if the winds are just going to change on us. Right now, it's perfectly fine that we're doing 5.5 knots. That'll get us through the traffic separation before it gets dark, but as soon as we're through the traffic separation, it would be good for us to slow down quite a bit so we don't have to arrive at Brest when it's still dark. So yeah, but also the winds are supposed to die down to like 2 knots, so maybe it'll happen automatically. We're about 9 hours in, and the wind has been nice and stable. We've been barreling along for 5 to 6 knots the entire time, and we are slowly coming up on the eastbound traffic. As you can hopefully see here on the old trusty chart plotter, there's a bunch of green AIS markers here. That's all of the big ships heading into the English Channel. We're the little colorful guy down here, and we've got about 11 miles to go until we get into this traffic lane. Just for the fun of it, I pulled the latest weather forecast using the Iridium Go, and it still looks like the wind is gonna die down at around 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. But by then we'll be a lot closer to France, so this trip shouldn't cost us a lot in terms of fuel.
I've been chugging along on a new project. Some people have been asking what I crocheted the whole time that we're sailing. This is actually a special project that Mads requested. I was hoping I would be able to finish it on this passage, but I'm like so disappointed. Every time I start, I am starting to feel a little barfy, so I've been having to take lots of breaks. But if I can't finish it during this passage, then I'll definitely finish it by the end of the week. But this is an exciting one. I'm excited to show you guys.
The sun has set and we are slowly drifting into the night. We made it past those shipping lanes with no issues. That was not a problem. But the wind is starting to die down. We are down to about 7 knots of wind, which means our boat speed is about 4 knots. So yeah, we may kick on the engine in a little bit. Our timing in terms of arriving at the narrow bit down here with the current is looking pretty much perfect if we do 4.5 knots through the night. We'll still get here when it's dark, but I hope that's not going to be an issue, and then we should be in Brest around 8 or 9 in the morning. Now it's just a matter of leaning back, relaxing, cranking up the audiobook, and getting through the night.
It's about 2:30 a.m. and Mads just woke up from his sleep shift, but I'm not feeling tired at all, so we decided to let him continue sleeping and I'll just wake him up when I'm ready. For some reason, I'm just wide awake right now, and I know if I were to go lay down there, I would just lay there awake, so it just seems silly and to let him sleep. But other than that, things are going good. We barely have any wind. We're going about 4.5 knots. But yeah, it's good. There's not a boat in sight and we're just chugging along.
As is usually the case, the sun eventually started peeking up over the horizon and revealed that we had indeed made it to France. The wind had died down completely around midnight and we were almost in Brest, so I put away the preventer and put up the French courtesy flag in the hopes of being found courteous. Our approach to Marina de Chateau in Brest was uneventful, except for the embarrassing fact that I didn't stick the landing in the first go. I put us too far away from the finger and Ava wasn't able to make the jump. By the time we were lined up for a second attempt, the very nice marina lady offered to take our line. As embarrassing as it was not sticking the landing in the first attempt, there was no damage to Athena, the finger, or the other boat, so that's good. Now we've paid to stay here in the marina for a week. That'll give us time to wait for a package from my parents containing our Starlink. Also, it'll give us time to explore the city a little bit and hopefully cross a couple of other projects off the to-do list. Chief amongst those, a washdown pump for the anchor and stuff like that. And also a GPS compass and some other stuff. But yeah, we'll get back to that hopefully in the next video. Ava?
Yes?
Did you finish your project?
Yes, I did.
Can we see it?
Yes. It's a Mergull.
A mermaid and seagull combination. That thing is very cute.
Mads really loves seagulls. Obviously, we see them everywhere we go. They're currently pretty much attacking our boat right now, but he lovingly calls them majestic poop birds. So I thought I would make him an actual majestic poop bird.
Ava's still ironing out the last design details and the colors, but if you guys would like a majestic poop bird, we're gonna put them up for sale on our website. So yeah, the majestic poop bird, the perfect gift for a young sailor. And that about is going to be it for this week's video. We hope to see all of you guys back here aboard Athena next week for hopefully some DIY. We'll see what parts we can get our hands on.
Yeah. And maybe some exploring.
Yeah, hopefully some exploring.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we hope to see all of you guys back here aboard Athena next week. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video,
please remember to leave a like.
See you! You do such a bad seagull.
Okay, you do it then.
No, I don't do a good seagull.